Hey guys, Kimberly Fox here. This is the third part series for our breathing exercises. So we've been focusing on stabilization through pressurization, and so today's video is going to be some more advanced moves on incorporating that same idea of pressurized breathing during movement phases to protect our spine during kettlebell sport. I have here with me today Dr. Jared Shoemaker. He's my chiropractor and owns In Muscle Spine.
In Motion Spine Muscle Joint.
You're lucky I just didn't forget your first name like right before we started. So he's here today to talk about some of these advanced techniques. I started going to him probably like 2 years ago. I think it was about the time when I first started doing doubles. And I had some shoulder and some back issues, and he's really like helped me clear up all those problems. Did you want to talk about some of the stuff that you see in the clinical area?
Pretty much every patient I see, they're unable to breathe correctly, they're unable to pressurize correctly, and they're unable to integrate those things into their task, whatever it may be, whether it be kettlebell sport, sitting in a desk all day, CrossFit, any of these different activities that they're doing throughout the day. Most people typically don't think that it's possible for them to breathe incorrectly, but around typically the age of about 5 years old, when you go sit in class all day, you start to inhibit the diaphragm, and everything turns into an upper chest dominant pattern, and you're unable to stabilize your spine from that point on the way that it should happen. So I deal with it every day. It's sometimes hard to get people to buy in, but it's probably the most important movement pattern that you don't think about and you don't work on. So hopefully we'll give you a better idea with this exercise on how you can progress that and then get into your sport or your activity in doing so.
I know that I had never really heard of this before, and it was something that was never taught to me, and it would have been definitely helpful in previous sports that I've done, as well as helpful early on when I first started kettlebell sport. So it's definitely something I try and integrate in when I'm teaching students, because I know most of the time it's something that people haven't done before. So the first thing we're going to go into is an advanced what do you want to call it? It's
a developmental exercise. It comes from DNS, which stands for Dynamic Neuromuscular Stabilization, which is where I learned initially all these things from. So it looks fairly simple, but it's really taxing on the abdominal wall. So
I will tell you that I actually haven't done this drill before. I only just barely practiced it right before we did this, and even though I've done a lot of these drills, it was pretty hard. I was already shaking when we first started. So if you want to walk them through how to get in position.
Basically just start flat on your stomach. Hands are going to go about eye level. You want to start with a nice neutral hand, equal weight through the hand. You can start by basically bracing the core, so you don't want to fall into that overextended or overarched pattern. You want to stay neutral as you press up onto your hands. So go ahead and come on up, Kim. Good, and she's pretty good at this. She's a little bit overextended, so there we go, and give me nice pressure all the way around. Bring the shoulder blades down, connect them, and stay long through the neck. And what Kim will tell you is she's already starting to struggle just holding this neutral posture. And so what we can do from here is, one, we can just work on holding it, and now we can integrate respiration. So what I'm going to ask her to do is I want you to breathe in a full 360-degree circle. So I should feel her abdomen expand towards the floor. I should feel her posterior abdominal wall expand towards the ceiling, which I do. She's doing really nice. And then I should be able to feel her lateral abdominal wall expand sideways, which you'll be able to see with my fingers. Good. And relax. And we're going to give her a break, because what she'll tell you is that's actually very tough to hold, right? You feel that in the core pretty strongly. Yeah. Good. So basically just getting into that position will be difficult, will be too advanced for most people. They will either, I'll just kind of demonstrate, they'll either, and Kim will tell you with kettlebells that she was just kind of explaining to me with kettlebell sport how people struggle with this, is they actually hang on their spine in a hyperextended position, which we don't want to do. We want to be able to get out of that and get into neutral. I feel my back being compressed right now, but if you hear my voice, it's no challenge in my Q, or in my, it's no challenge in my core, not my Q. So as I get in my posterior abdominal wall, neutral here, now I start to feel things. This is a challenge. And if I add in the breathing, it's even more of a challenge.
And we were talking about with, you know, normal lifting, you're almost always in some type of Valsalva maneuver while you're doing the lift. And kettlebell sport is so much different in the fact that we are doing it for 10 minutes straight, so it's impossible, or, well, it wouldn't be very good for you to try and Valsalva that whole time. And so the only time that you are really like, truly like probably in a Valsalva position is during the jerk. During all the rest of the positions, you're really just pressurized, and there's varying degrees of how much pressure you need to apply depending on what position you're in. When you're in the rack position, prior to jerking, like if you're just sitting there, you need to be pressurized, but you don't need to have as much as you do as right before you jerk. And same thing is when in the under squat, I'm going to have more pressurization than I did in the rack, but not as much as I did in the jerk. So it's really important to be able to do it naturally because you have to do it pretty much through every movement, every part of the kettlebell movement, and be able to do it continuously for 10 minutes. You have to practice it so that way it naturally comes to you. Probably the first thing I see go in people is that you'll teach them this breathing technique, and they can do it really good just sitting here, but as soon as they start to get tired, they go right back to intercostal breathing. And as soon as you do that, like, you've lost the pressurization, which is, you know, losing the stability, losing the additional ability to be able to exert more energy into the bells. So, did you want to add anything?
No, that's good.
Okay. We're going to show one more step up from this. Some people, if you've already done similar things like this before, you might be able to do this drill that we just did fairly easily. So there's one progression past this one that we're going to show also.
So from here we can start adding in extremity movement. With Kim, we'll work a little bit of leg movement here. So come on up and get your neutral spine again. With this stick, I'm helping her feel the back of her head, middle of her back, butt all touching. Go ahead and give me a little bit. There we go. And pressurize a little bit. Good. Okay. And now what I'm going to ask her to do is whichever leg she wants to first. I'm going to have her slide it up to about come on up. So she's not going to go quite to 90 and back down. Other side, same thing. You can see how it starts to drive. She's not letting her spine move at all. If she'd let her spine move, this would be much easier, but she's keeping it stable throughout the whole entire movement. And this drives more reaction in the core. Good, and relax whenever you need to. If you're not shaking and you don't feel this in your core, if this doesn't feel way harder than it looks, you're probably not doing it, or you're not doing it right. Even the strongest people have an extremely hard time doing this. And I think a key point to remember is you have to work on these drills and get more efficient at them, because your brain will always say, screw stability, just let me breathe. And that it will always go back to that upper chest respiratory pattern. So you know, Kim may be okay at this, or someone may be okay at this, and they get into about their 5th minute, and all of a sudden things start to break down. That's where the injury is going to occur. You know, same thing in something like CrossFit, where you're lifting sub-maximal weights over and over again. If you're not very good at this, you're going to break down. Kind of along the lines of what Kim was saying, if you're squatting 800 pounds. It's going to be an all-out pressurization with less breathing. With what she's doing, we have to match our brace to our task and be able to breathe within that. That's basically the point I'm trying to get across.
Well, if anybody has any questions, please comment and ask them, and we'll try and reply back. Thank you, Jared, for coming in, even though you didn't know that you were going to be talking on camera.
It's okay.
All right. We'll see you guys later.